All right, I just wanted to show some of these headsets real quick because I'm making a video for the Hawaii homies. I just wanted to show some of these different headsets. So on most modern BMX bikes, like 20-inch bikes, they have an integrated head tube, which is like this one here. You see how the head tube is machined to accept the bearings. The bearings just sit right down in there. And then real quick, I wanted to show you, this is what an integrated headset will look like. This is a modern BMX campy style headset. All it's gonna come with is a crown race, and that goes on the fork steer tube. The bottom bearing sits on there. And then this is the top part. So the bottom part is going to load up into the bottom of the head tube. And then the top bearing is going to sit down in the top of the head tube. And all it's going to have is the bearing. And then this compression cap, which helps keep everything together nice and tight. Sometimes it comes with this little tiny washer on top. And it's a shame when it doesn't, because sometimes you need that washer. So if you're ever at your bike shop and you work on bikes a lot, you might want to ask them for a couple of those, because usually they have a bunch laying around. And this is a perfect example. This headset here did not come with that top washer. Actually, in this bike right here, when I first put the headset together, this FSA headset, it was binding. Because this is not a stock fork. I don't know why it was binding, but all I did was put that tiny, tiny little washer in there, and then it was fine. It was completely fine. So that little tiny washer does help sometimes. So back to the integrated headset. It's going to come with the fork crown race, the two bearings, the compression washer, the top shim washer, the real thin one sometimes. It usually comes with a couple spacers and a top cap. This goes on top to cover everything up. And then sometimes it'll come with a star nut and a top cap. Not always. This is from Fairdale, and since they make all different kinds of bikes, it came with this. But most modern BMX bikes don't use a star nut. They use like a 24 millimeter fork preload bolt that goes right into the fork steer tube. Okay, so this is what an integrated headset looks like. If you buy a non-integrated headset, like this one, that's a box 2 headset. You see it comes with 2 cups for the bearings to sit in. See how the head tube is not machined to accept bearings? This is an SC, this is an MCS headset. You see how the head tube is straight. It's not machined to accept bearings. And this is my turner that you've seen in an older video. Again, you need the cups so the bearings sit in there. So I'm just going to get a quick... So Chris King, they make their own size bearings. These are not Campy spec bearings. These are obviously Campy 45-45 bearings, because that's a standard integrated BMX headset. And then these ones are interesting. MCS is my favorite of all, and it's one of the cheapest ones. And the reason it's one of my favorite is because these cups are machined to accept these bearings. And I wish I had taken a video when I put this together. So this is a Campy spec 45-45 bearing. Now I have another video I'm about to edit this into, and I think I got a comparison of this bearing with one of these box 2 bearings, which these also say 45 degrees. It says it right there. But these bearings are not Campy spec. So you cannot take a bearing from an integrated BMX headset and just set it in this cup. But MCS is my favorite because they machine these cups to take these bearings. So in the future, if I need to replace these bearings, or my homie, this is my homie's bike here that I've been working on. If I need to replace these bearings, I can go to any BMX shop and buy these bearings. These bearings will not work like that. You have to contact the manufacturer if you don't know what size they are and try and find a replacement. And I already tried to contact Box about these bearings, and they had no idea what I was even talking about. A BMX company couldn't tell me. A major BMX company could not tell me what size their bearings were, other than that they're 45-degree bearings. And I sent them an explanation of how these are not campy style bearings that most BMX companies use. I even asked to, send it up to a manager, and he said he checked with the manager and they had no further information is all they really said. So if these bearings ever go out, it's going to be hard to find replacements more than likely. So I think that's everything I wanted to explain. Yeah, I think I got a video when me and the homie were swapping out this headset of the loose ball bearings that came with the SE. So hopefully I'll find that and I'll edit that into this. A side note, these bikes are $800 or $900 brand new. It's just crazy that they come with an unsealed headset. There's the headset, the bottom with the unsealed bearings, and here's the top. What would be really nice if they're going to do this, what would be really nice is if they would at least use bearings that take modern BMX spec, which is campy 45-45, and then you could at least use the cups in there. But I seriously doubt these cups will hold campy bearings. Let me check. Nah, I can tell. See how they're rounded in there? Those aren't made for modern bearings, for modern sealed BMX bearings. So yeah, these cups have to come out. You see these silver cups here? There's a tool that'll help you punch those out. These cups are designed for this specific bearing. You can't just put any bearing in there. So you have to punch these cups out, clean it all up, grease the inside, and then you have to use a bearing press to put the new cups in. I use these. These are just homemade bearing presses from Home Depot. This costs like $3 or $4. All right, I got this new headset on here. It's an MCS headset, and it takes campy 45-45 bearings. So there's my headset press. I've got a rubber cup on each end so that it doesn't scratch the metal. But yeah, I have I put the crown race on the fork already and the bottom bearing in, and it's good. But yeah, the last side note is these crown races are designed to fit perfectly on the bearing that it comes with. So you cannot, most of the time, you cannot just take some other bearing and put it on a crown race unless it's the same exact spec, campy 45-45 in this case. But you can't take the unsealed bearings that come from SE and put them on this fork crown race. Likewise, the fork that came with the SE has a different crown race. So you have to remove it if you want to use a modern headset. You have to take that crown race off. Anyway, I hope that all made sense. All right, you guys are in luck. I knew I had another one of these Box 2 headsets, but I couldn't find it. And then I kept digging and I finally found it. So these are discontinued. These are Box 2 alloy 1 1/8 press-in headsets. (6061) aluminum cups. So first I'm going to compare the two bearings that come with the box headset. Okay, this is the bottom and this is the top. I'm just eyeballing these right now. And just eyeballing them, they look the same to me. Now, I'm going to look at these off camera and see if there's any writing on these. I don't see any writing anywhere on these, on this one anyway. That was the bottom. Now let me look at the top. If you buy like a nicer headset, a lot of times the spec will be printed right on here. And these ones don't have that, which is disappointing. Now, when this sits on the Crown Race, you see how smooth it is? I know you can't really tell, but I can feel that it's really smooth. Now, this is the Crown Race for the box headset. Now I'm going to put a Campy bearing on there and see how it feels. Okay, it feels kind of smooth, but I can tell it's wobbling around more. It doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel super bad, like I think it would work, but it doesn't feel right to me. By the way, these Crown Races, see how this one doesn't have a slit and this one does? These ones are way easier to get on and off. I really like it when they have that slit on there. These ones are super hard to get off. You can get them on real easy if you have the proper tool, but to get them off is you have to use a flathead screwdriver and kind of hit around it until it breaks free and you can slide it up. Okay, now I'm going to actually compare two of these bearings. And they're both, okay, so the Campy bearing is red on top and the box one isn't. So first of all, let me look at the, okay, so I can already tell by feeling these, the outer diameter is bigger on the Campy spec. This Campy bearing will not fit in this box 2 cup. Yep, doesn't fit in there. I'm trying to actually physically push it in there right now, and it won't fit. So this box 2 bearing, this box 2 headset that says it takes 45 bearings, well, it does, but they're not Campy spec bearings. These have a smaller outer diameter than these Campy spec bearings. The inner diameter should be the same because they're both for a 1 1/8 steerer tube. Measure these for you. So this is the box 2 headset here. I'm going to measure the outer diameter. It's hard to get it precise because it's round, but it says 40.9. This one says 41.8, and I was not looking at this when I took that measurement. So the Campy spec bearing has a bigger outer diameter. So what that means is if you have one of these box headsets and the bearing goes bad, you can't just run down to your BMX store and buy a new bearing. You have to figure out what kind of bearing will actually fit in here. Kind of sucks that they did that. Maybe that's why they quit making these. And that's why I was just filming this earlier, but that's why I like this MCS headset. If you need a press-in headset, I highly recommend this one. I think it definitely wasn't over $40. I think it was like $30, maybe $35. But these cups, and I did double check this when I installed it, these cups take Campy spec bearings. You know, so like I said earlier, bearing goes bad, you pop it out, you just go to your BMX store and get a new, just regular standard headset, and you pop in a new bearing. I'm trying to think of anything else. I didn't show you this. The box headset also comes with a star nut and a 6mm star nut and a top cap. The box headset did not come with spacers. A lot of headsets come with a couple spacers. This one did not, which is not a big deal. These things are super cheap. All right, for the rest of this video, I want to focus on the fork crown race. Chris King calls this a base plate. So on modern BMX bike fork that's integrated, it'll have this fork crown race built into it. So when you buy a headset, it's going to come with this. You're not going to need this part because this little 45-degree angle right here is already built onto the fork. For a non-integrated head tube and a non-integrated fork, you have to install the fork crown race, the base plate for Chris King. And these all look similar, but they're all different and they're not interchangeable. Chris King, I searched Google and I cannot find the specs on the bearing measurements. And it's funny because one site said 36 and another site said 45. Well, these are both 45, but it's just so much smaller I can't really tell. I want to look at these in a profile view real fast from the bottom. So this is the Chris King box 2, which has 45-degree bearings, and this is a 45-45 Campy spec. And you can see, even though the box 2 says 45-45, it's a little bit different than a Campy spec. There's a lot of different measurements on bearing sizes, so you have to make sure. You can see this one's taller too than this one. There's a lot of different measurements on bearing sizes, fork crown race size. So you have to make sure that your fork crown race fits the bearing you want to use. Now, when I get these mixed up, one other thing I wanted to say is this compression ring that goes on the top bearing is not the same as the fork crown race. It's smaller. So the fork crown race will pretty much cover the whole bottom of the bearing. So make sure you don't, when you're unboxing your headset, make sure you don't confuse these two pieces. This is a compression ring that goes in the top bearing that helps hold the fork steer tube in without it slipping out. So one other thing I wanted to mention is you see this little slit right here. A lot of fork crown races don't have that, and these are a lot harder to get on. You need a tool. Some people make it out of like a PVC pipe. If you're very, very, very careful, sometimes you can put some grease on here and you can use a flathead screwdriver and you can kind of tap it onto the fork. But you want to be extremely careful, because if you damage this area right here, it's not going to roll smooth on the bearing. These right here I've installed before and they're way easier to install. Most of the time you can just pop them on there without even using a hammer or anything, or any kind of a tool. And then the Chris King one. This one's way heavier than those other two. So yeah, this box 2 is going to fit on here and rotate smoothly. It does rotate on this one, but it's kind of wobbly. So again, last time, you can't just take a cup or a bearing from one bike and put it on another bike unless you're sure that they have the same spec. And I just thought that was really important. That's why I took the camera off the tripod and got some close-ups of this stuff. All right, y'all. Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions.